Thousands of Gamecocks will remember the concert on the Horseshoe by Mark Bryan and Darius Rucker, September 15, 2015. Some might also remember that day we dedicated the new journalism school. The concert would not have happened without our alumnus Mark Bryan. I met Mark soon after coming to USC in 2002. Early on, I proposed that when the journalism school got its new building, we also put on a concert. Mark agreed. Later, Darius told me if Mark was in, he was in. Both had been journalism students, so we had half a Hootie and the return of the Wolf Brothers. But that's not the half of Mark Bryan. The Hootie and the Blowfish story is a USC legend. Here's more. While Mark's career centers around music, communication is the foundation. He's a solo artist, a music producer, an Emmy-winning TV host, and a fellow academic as artist in residence at the College of Charleston. Mark founded Carolina Studios, a Charleston nonprofit to introduce children to music and the arts. He created Chucktown Music Group to serve local artists. He hosts Live at the Charleston Music Hall on SCE-TV and PBS. He continues to write, record, and perform. Mark, I'd been looking forward to being with you this evening, but politics is my muse, and I have a gig in Greenville this evening, where I'm moderating SCE-TV's gubernatorial debate, right about now. We always hope elections can have a positive impact on education here in South Carolina, even if experience teaches us not to expect too much. To all of the honorees, my congratulations, and thanks for spreading our reputation on all the stages on which you perform. Go everywhere, Gamecocks.
I did not expect that. I got an email from Charles this week telling me he was going to be moderating the event, so I knew he wouldn't be here, but I had no idea that was coming. That was a nice surprise, so thank you. And thank you very much. I'm really honored about this. Mine is a full circle story. I grew up in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, suburban Maryland area, and this, just like Chris, I want to tell you a story about my dad because it's part of the reason that I'm here. And when I was in about junior high, he was a big sports fan and he was a salesman, but he decided to have a second career in sports broadcasting. And he started off in Montgomery County just doing like a high school football scoreboard out of his sporting goods store that he was doing, and it was just for fun. But he was good at it. And he ended up with a job with an AM radio station doing basketball games for George Washington University with Mike Patrick, who's now obviously a national broadcaster on ESPN. So when I was in 8th grade, ninth grade, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, I was going with my dad on to half the game, whatever the home games would be at the Smith Center for GW, and I'd sit right behind he and Mike Patrick, and there was also a time where my dad was doing the house PA at those games, and I realized I was a teenager whose voice was sort of coming of age, and I realized I had a pretty decent speaking voice as well, just like my dad. So I thought, well, that would be a great thing to major in, and somehow we figured out that the University of South Carolina had one of the best journalism schools in the country. I believe it was top 10 at the time that I was coming out of high school. And so my dad came down with me and we visited and we were very impressed, and I came to school here and had a great experience. Obviously met Darius. Not only did he live on my same hall my freshman year in the dorm, but he was also in my journalism 101 class, and then he was also in my journalism law class with Dr. Collins. So Darius and I became close friends really quick, started the band, and when we graduated, we decided to make a go of it with music, obviously, and things worked out. So I never really got to use that broadcast journalism degree, other than the fact that I spoke on microphones on stage. And I guess we did interviews and that sort of thing, but I was always on that side of the camera as opposed to my major in college was broadcast production, where I was on the other side of the camera trying to figure all that out. So I wasn't really using the major, and I never thought about it because I was having so much fun being a rock musician. But somewhere around 2009, we decided to take a hiatus with Hootie and just stop making albums and touring for a little while and take a break. And around that time, the owner of the Charleston Music Hall came to me and said, I have this amazing room, it's historic, but I'm not a show promoter, I don't know what to do with the room. And I thought, well, you could do something like an Austin City Limits out of this room, a TV show that showcases this room and then showcases the Charleston scene. He loved the idea, so I took it to the folks at SCE TV. They loved the idea because they were looking for this type of programming, and they said that PBS all over the country is looking for this type of programming. That was encouraging for me. So I dug in on this project, and I had never done anything like that before. I mean, I understood somewhat of TV production, but I'd obviously never been the producer of a TV show. But I dug in, got involved with the College of Charleston at the time, and got involved with some corporate sponsors in the community, found a really good director, went to some of my friends who are national acts in music and asked them to do the first couple of shows, the pilots. And somehow, after about 5 years of work, it all came together and we were able to make season 1. And then not only was it picked up by SCE TV, but it was picked up by PBS stations nationwide, which I was always hopeful of, but never saw coming. So that was thrilling. But the one thing I really never saw coming was the Emmy Award that we got for it. It was a regional Emmy here in the Southeast. And it's not at all why I set out to do the TV show, but it was a perfect capper for the full circle story. And so I owe a lot of the, the background that I have to pull off a show like that to the journalism school here. There's no question about it. And so I'd like to, first of all, say a big thank you to my dad for inspiring me in broadcast journalism. Give him a hand. Bob Bryan's in the house tonight. Voice of the Colonials. That was a big inspiration. And Nancy Clark was somebody who really helped me understand TV production, so I'd like to recognize her. Dr. Ken Seidel was somebody who really helped me understand, the broadcasting side. We did a lot of radio production with him, and I understood how to learn how to edit news broadcasts. And unfortunately, right after that, everything went digital. So what I learned from him, if you got some razor blades and some tape, I'm really good at that stuff, thanks to Dr. Ken Seidel. And I also like to recognize Lee Duddick, who was our announcing teacher back in the day. And every time I say up here, I'm like, oh God, I'm glad he's not here right now to scold me on it. He was great. He really was highly inspirational to me on a microphone. He gave me guidance that no one else has ever given me about how to have confidence and how to clearly state what you're saying. And even though I had that skill naturally anyway from my father, it was great that I got trained in that with Lee Duddick. It really made a difference in my career, no question about it. And then lastly, as far as the teachers go, I'd like to thank Dr. Eric Collins, who I mentioned earlier. Darius and I were in his law class. We really enjoyed his class. He's an amazing man, he's an amazing teacher. He was able to keep a topic, a subject like journalism law, actually very interesting. So that says a lot about him right there. But more importantly, after we had his class, Darius and I were, the band was asked to sign a contract early on, a producer contract to make our first recordings. And we'd never seen one before, and we didn't know what to do with it. So we called up Dr. Collins and said, will you take a look at this producer contract for us? He's like, sure, guys. And so Darius and I went down to Dr. Collins' office, and he sat down and looked it over with us and gave it his blessing, and sure enough, it worked out, and it was the first EP we ever made, and we made 2 EPs with that same producer, and we were forever thankful to him for that help and input. So I just want to recognize that. Also, John Wardrop, who was never a teacher for me, but was the director of, I believe, the public relations department at the time. I met him and I became really close friends with his daughter. I still am today. She married one of my best friends from college, so I just wanted to recognize him today. And then also Charles Bierbauer, who gave me such a nice introduction and has kept me involved with the journalism school over the years, which I was very thankful for. And now he's turned that over to the capable hands of Tom, who I've really enjoyed meeting. So thanks, guys, very much. And also a big thanks to my mom and stepmom, Lee and Jackie, and also my lovely girlfriend, Sarah, who I love so much and who makes me so happy. Thank you all very much.